I'm bigcal. Welcome to my world. Today is another recent video games pickups video and the first of a two-parter looking at Sony Playstation games, ranging from the PS1 all the way up to the PS Vita. So firstly, the set still has the Dragon Quest stuff because I'm recording this during Dragon Questober, so just ignore that. Anyway, so the first part we're going to look at some PS1, PSP and PS Vita games, starting with the only PS Vita game that I own. Don't even own a system for it, and it's in Japanese so I couldn't play it anyway, and that is The Legend of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel 2. If you've seen my channel, you know I adore this series, and yeah, I made an order from Japan a few months ago, picked up a bunch of games, and this was on there. Thought, while I'm making an order, I'll throw it on, it's cheap. Yeah, so, yeah, comes nice completing box, just one for the collection really. Big fan of the games, of course. If you haven't played them, for the love of God, play them. Yeah. Moving on now to some PSP titles, and there's going to be a slight recurring theme over the next bunch of pickups videos. You're going to see a lot of these type of games because I'm planning to do a big video at some point next year looking at all of them, basically. So we'll start off with Teleaddicts for the PlayStation Portable. I already own this on the Wii and the DS, but of course I had to pick up the PSP version as well. Teleaddicts was a game show style game, quiz game, TV show, back in the very early 90s. I think it had a bit of a comeback maybe in the early 2000s. But yeah, for some reason, years after it had finished, they made a game out of it. And it's basically you answering a bunch of questions based on TV shows. There were lots of clips of old shows and things like that. Yeah, it's very, very fun. I really enjoy it. So yeah, picked that up. It's a very fun game. I enjoy it on your own or with other people. And some more quiz games, because, spoiler, that's what the big video is going to be on. These aren't based on a TV show though, these are just ordinary quiz games. I'm going to show them all at once because they're essentially the same. We have Buzz, Brain of the UK, Buzz, Quiz World, and Buzz, Quizmaster. And yeah, they're just quiz games. You go in, you answer a bunch of questions, you move on to the next set of questions. Different styles where you just choose out of multiple choice. You have to try and figure out what it's asking you. You have to answer a correct order of things. Yeah, they're fun. I enjoy them. Like I said, quiz games. The Buzz games, there are tons of them out there. Yeah, so they're all different. Master Quiz, Quiz World. And then Brain of the UK I thought was going to be all UK based questions. It isn't, so that was a little bit disappointing, but even then, I live in the UK, I haven't got a clue about half the stuff it asks anyway. Yeah, so Buzz games, fun and cheap. Moving on now to some PlayStation 1 games, and we have first a sequel I didn't know existed. Yeah, so some of you may remember a very fun game on the Super Nintendo, and I think it got a Mega Drive released, and that was Rock and Roll Racing. We had a nice fun racing game with rock and roll music. They made a sequel, Rock and Roll Racing 2 Red Asphalt, featuring no rock and roll music that I could gather based on playing it, and unfortunately the racing is rather substandard as well. Not exactly a great pickup, but I thought it was at least an interesting title, so there's that. But yeah, it exists. It's a very mediocre racing game with a bad soundtrack, especially for the fact that it's called Rock and Roll Racing. I don't know what music's in there. There's certainly no licensed music, and what is there isn't rock and roll. Lastly, for this first part, we have a PlayStation 1 game that's been on my want list for some time. I believe it's in my top 10 most wanted games list for games to try and pick up within the next year. I did try to get this in February when I went to the big retro gaming market. I ended up with the PSP version of it. But now I do finally have the PlayStation 1 version of Ape Escape. So this was one of the first, if not the first game that required you to use the brand new DualShock controller for the PlayStation 1. Cannot play it without the dual sticks. And I always remember looking at it in magazines growing up, thinking I really want to play that game. I did eventually get a DualShock controller for the PlayStation 1, I just never picked up Ape Escape. I don't know why. It's a very fun 3D platformer. We go around capturing monkeys in nets, going through time and things. Yeah, so fun game, fun 3D platformer. Finally glad to own the original PlayStation 1 version of it. The PSP version is fine, it's just it doesn't control as well with only one analog stick. So yeah, finally own the original PlayStation version. And that's it for this video this week. I'm bigcal. Thanks for watching. Let me know down in the comments below what you thought of my pickups this week. And check out the video next week. It will be the second part of the PlayStation games pickups, where I look through basically a bunch of PlayStation 2 games.